I run the Hip Hops account. If you don't follow me, I run an Instagram account where I pair craft beer with vinyl records. I'll put the link to my account in the description below, but it's the same name. So I saw this vinyl tag thing, and this is the first time I just really started watching the YouTube videos from the vinyl community, and there was, I believe it was Andrew in Tales from the Crate. I saw his video, and he's the one that started the 2021 list, and then I also watched like the Noble Records, and when he was talking about it, he was saying they were talking about how it's a good opportunity for people to jump in if they don't know where they want to start and they want to get into the vinyl community and to make these videos. I've been wanting to do this for a little while, to try to transition from just Instagram to put people on new music, to learn about new music from other people. I'd like to eventually be able to do interviews with brewers, people in the craft beer industry, and artists, and see kind of where it goes from there. So if you want to give me a subscribe, follow me on Instagram, we'll see where this goes. And if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments. I'd love to get some feedback, see how it goes. So I am based in Chicago, and so I will have to say I'm enjoying a generator from Metropolitan Brewing. It's a Doppelbock that is released yearly, and I got it in my nice ABV Chicago glass. I do want to figure out how to sort of combine the craft beer and the vinyl records in the video, so we'll kind of see. This is going to be sort of an evolving thing and a learning experience for myself. So to jump into the vinyl tag, so there's 20 questions, and to start out, number one is a discovery that you made in 2020. So in 2020, obviously we're all in quarantine. I've been looking for different kinds of music, putting on different kinds of music while I'm working. And 2020, I found Sven Wonder. He is a Swedish musician who, it's all instrumental. It sort of fuses like jazz, funk, psych, but with a Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, Asian type twist. So it's got a little bit of like a surf rock vibe mixed in with a spy thriller. I've seen someone describe it as. It's a really good listen. The album's called Eastern Flowers, and it's on Piano Records. So if you haven't checked this out, I suggest checking it out. So the next question is a quarantine buy. So I've had too many records coming in the mail, but I wanted to focus on an in-person buy during quarantine. And it was a record store day. I believe it was the first record store day during quarantine. I decided to go, one of my favorite artists is Damien Dorado, and I decided that he had a 7-inch that was released on record store day, and I was gonna go to my local shop, Tone Deaf Records. It's here in the Portage Park neighborhood of Chicago. And I picked up the 7-inch, which is, it's a double-sided, Birds Tricked into Trees, and then side 2 is From Devils to Davis. That is an exclusive track to the 7-inch, and it's on this Coke bottle clear 7-inch, so it's, you can see there. And while I was there, I also needed to pick up the latest album that the 7-inch sort of spurs off of, and this is called What's New, Tomboy. It's his latest release outside. He just released a CD, actually. It hasn't come out on vinyl yet, but this is his latest vinyl release. And this was on the indie exclusive quartz colored vinyl, which I'll show you here. And it's also at a 45 RPM, which is pretty nice, but it's a nice thick, I don't know, 180 gram, maybe even more than that. It's a nice thick vinyl. And this is, if you don't know Damien Dorado, his style has sort of changed throughout the years. He started out more punky, for lack of a better word, more aggressive, and then he his last albums were more stripped down and acoustic. This sort of gets back into having drums and everything into the songs. But he's an amazing songwriter, and it's real sort of chill in the later years. He has some concept albums going throughout his discography, but he's a great listen. I would recommend checking out a few of his albums, because like I said, the genres sort of seem to vary so much. An LP you would like to find in 2021. I know there are a ton of vinyls that I want still, but two big ones I would love to find that are very expensive on the secondary Discogs or eBay, anything like that, is Madlib's Flight to Brazil. So Madlib is one of my favorite hip hop producers. He's really sample based and is influenced by jazz, soul, and all kinds of music really. But the Flight to Brazil, he was compiling different Brazilian records. There's actually a documentary, it's a short documentary about Brazilian music, and Madlib and J-Rock and a couple other people from like the Stones Throw group, or the Stones Throw record label, they go down to Brazil and they're digging for records, and they're hanging out with musicians that are Brazilian, so different Brazilian drummers, and it's on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube. I'm pretty sure if you just type in like Madlib Brazil documentary. So that's one. The other one is Yusuf Days and Alpha Mist. It's called Love is the Message. Now this is a 10-inch, single side 10-inch, and it's UK jazz, so it's got more of a beat to it. Yusuf Days plays the drums, and it's a real good listen. I'm sure most of you probably have heard of Alpha Mist and Yusuf Days and the whole Tom Misch, Kamal Williams. There's a whole crew of the UK jazz musicians that are sort of making it big right now, and that was a limited release. It came on blue vinyl. I missed out on it when it came out, and now it's several $100s for the 10-inch, which is way too much for a single song in my opinion. All right, so number 4 is a box set. Now I ordered this for my wife for Christmas, and it took months to get here, but it finally got here right before Christmas. It's Beyonce's Homecoming, and it is from her Coachella performances in 2018. And so it's got 4 albums. It was over 2 weekends that she played, so it's songs selected from 2 different concerts that she gave. And it's got this 52-page book inside, which has amazing photos from the concert. I'm not gonna take it all the way out, but you can see it's got the colored photos on the inside there, and the sleeves have images also from the concert, which is pretty nice packaging. I was really happy with how this came out. But it's a great song. My son, my 15-month-old son, really loves it. He was dancing to it. So number 5 is a concept album. So being most of my collection is hip hop or lo-fi, I have a lot of, I'm working on still getting a lot of jazz records and blues records. I have a lot of alternative, but my taste sort of spans all over the place, but most of this is gonna be hip hop based. Deltron 3030. This is a concept album about a future world where there's like a evil entity, and Del the Funky Homo Sapien, who's the rapper, the MC on this, he goes through battling different people in the end to sort of like maintain dominance. It's produced by Dan the Automator, who is also in Handsome Boy Modeling School, the Gorillas. He's done a lot of different big projects, but this is, I think, it's got to be on the top of the list for everyone's favorite hip hop concept album. Kid Koala, DJ Kid Koala also is featured heavily on this. But this is a reissue of the album. It's very good. It's got Del is an amazing MC. He's got a crazy flow and crazy vocabulary. But this is sort of, if you're a fan of sci-fi even, I would say check this out. It's got a lot of, talking about computer viruses and all sorts of stuff, but it's a fun listen. Number 6 is an album where the artist changed directions. And again, staying sort of in the hip hop realm, I have Illa J's Home. So Illa J is the younger brother of Jay Dilla, who is, famed Detroit hip hop producer, beat maker, MC, he sort of did it all. His brother was, his first couple albums that he put out, he was rapping on a lot of his older brother's beats. And this album in particular, I would say that so his album just before this, I would say it was about 80-20, 80% rapping, 20% singing. And this one, he talked about how he wanted to really focus on singing because he really enjoyed to sing. And he's got a great voice. It's got still his whole vibe. And if you listen to him, you'll know what I'm talking about, but he carries that over into this, even if it's singing. And it sort of flips. So it's about 20% rapping, 80% singing. But it's got a very soulful vibe, very influenced by him being raised in Detroit and sort of that Motown feel. Listen to all of this stuff, but for sure check this out if you're into like R&B, hip hop, anything like that, pop music even, I would say you might like this. Number 7 is a white label promo. So I don't really collect these per se, but a few years back, and this is probably 5-6 years back, I found a lot of records that somebody just threw away. And in that pile of records that somebody threw away was Herbie Hancock and Chick Corea in concert. The album itself is pretty beat up, but I looked through, I didn't even think I had any white label promos, but I do have this from Columbia Records. It's the only white label promo that I own. But it's good. I mean, you got 2 pianists that are considered some of the greatest of all time in the jazz pianist community, and it's not gonna be funky like Headhunters or anything, but it's a good listen. More slowed down. Compilation album. All right, so I had a lot of compilation albums actually, which I was kind of surprised about. And I went with Rawkus Records, Best of Decade 1. So this is from 1995 to 2005. Rawkus Records, if you're not familiar with them, was probably the biggest underground hip hop label in the mid 90s to 2010-ish probably. They're still putting stuff out, but this is, I mean, some of the features on this are Talib Kweli, Get By, Mos Def, Miss Fat Booty, Black Star, which is Mos Def and Talib Kweli, Styles P, Pharoah Monch, Big L's on this, Common's on this, High Tech, the producer who does a lot of stuff with Talib Kweli, the High and Mighty. But this is full of, I mean, Rawkus Records was sort of like the soundtrack to my college days. And what really got me into underground hip hop music was this label here. So I had to grab this when I saw it available. So an album that tells a story. So this album is by Phonte. It's called Charity Starts at Home. Now this album there's only 500 of them pressed. It was Phonte's first solo record. He's part of the group Little Brother. If you're not familiar, definitely check them out. But the Little Brother was made up of Phonte and rapper Big Pooh, both the 2 MCs in the group, and then Ninth Wonder was the producer. So this is Phonte going solo. Charity Starts at Home. It is on this red vinyl, which is sort of cool. It's got this like sort of Salvation Army crest play on the charity. They only made 500 of these, and it's one that I wanted forever, and it was always ridiculously expensive. And I just so happened to see it pop up on one of my local stores, Reckless Records. I saw it pop up on their list that they got it in, and I immediately went to go get it because I knew I probably wouldn't come across this again. And the story behind it, there was at the Chicago Cultural Center, Rhymefest, who's another local rapper here. He's got some mainstream hits, you might have heard of him, but he was holding a seminar for songwriters, singers, rappers, producers, people who wanted to get in the music industry. And Phonte was going to be one of the speakers. And I have no musical ability. I'm a big fan of music. And so I wanted to go see Fonte just because he's one of my favorite rappers of all time. And I saw him, and I went to get him to sign this, and you can see he signed it here. And this is in 2017. When I showed him this, he was like, oh man, he's like, I don't even have one of these anymore. And he told me that Ninth Wonder had called him up recently, and I guess he found a couple of them in his storage unit somewhere. But he said that he hasn't seen one of these in several years. And this album came out in 2012, so it's not that old, but it's hand numbered with the silver Sharpie on the back here. Red vinyl, and I got him to sign it, which I was really stoked about. I'll try to throw up a picture somewhere around here of when I got to meet him. Nice guy. So number 10 is an album that needs a pressing. So there's several albums I can think of that I would really like a pressing for, but the one I was going to start with was Loot. It's called the album's called West 1996 Part 2, and Loot is a rapper who's on Dreamville Records with J. Cole. He's out of North Carolina. I love the whole album. I don't even remember how I came across it, but he's got like one of the tracks is produced by J Dilla, so you already know it's sort of that old school hip hop vibe, like the late 90s vibe. And I love that album, and I really wish they would press it. And I haven't recently, but I was hounding the different record labels trying to get them to press it up. I'd also say there's a couple it's a Henry Jameson album I really wish would get pressed. And then there is a Panacea, which is a rap group with K Murdoch, and they had an album called The Scenic Route, which I really wanted to get on vinyl. I don't have any of their stuff yet. It's not that expensive, it's just you don't really come across it. I could just buy it online, but I'd sort of like to thrill of the hunt with it. Okay, so number 11 is a common album and a rare album. So I wanted to stick with the hometown Chicago theme with this. So for a common album, I have Common's B, Dudooch. And this is one of my favorite hip hop albums of all time. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. This is the album that got me into underground hip hop. So this came out in 2005. Yeah, so I graduated high school in 2006. This came out my senior year. I found this, and it was really soulful. Kanye West produced a lot of the beats on this, and it was old Kanye. And it sort of led me into finding other neo-soul type rappers, and that's what got me into Black Star, Mos Def, and Talib Kweli, other Common, J Dilla, which sort of got me into a lot of other different artists. So this sort of is responsible for my love of hip hop music. And although it's not that easy to find right now, I just had to pull it out because it's common. So sticking with Chicago, my rare record is this Saba Bucket List Project. This album, there's only 300 of them made. It's on, to match the Omerta record sticker there, it's on this purple vinyl, like sort of like a fuchsia purple vinyl. I believe there's only 300 of these pressed, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 300. And it was released through the Omerta, hand numbered here, released through the Omerta site, and then also through Fat Beats. This Saba was sort of slept on initially when this came out. I jumped on him because I heard him on Chance the Rapper's Angels, and I was like, who is this guy? Like, I need to hear more of him. And then I saw he was also from Chicago, so it drew me even more to him. When this got released, I bought it off Omerta's site, and I don't even remember. I think it lasted at least, it didn't go as fast as you would think it would. But then, you know, a year down the line, people started really wanting that record, and they only made 300. So it became really difficult to find. Now it's ridiculously expensive. I would never own it if I didn't luck out and buying it when it came out. By the way, if you guys like loggers at all, definitely check out Metropolitan. They have the whole like machinery vibe and the robots, but amazing loggers, amazing patio. They have heaters out right now, which I know it's I mean, right today it was feels like 5 degrees, so it wouldn't be out there today. But definitely a brewery to go to and check out. Okay, so number 12 is an EP. So outside of hip hop, one of the other genres that I collect a lot of is lo-fi, chill hop, jazz hop, whatever you want to call it, instrumental hip hop beats. So this is The Swap by Moose Dawa. And Moose Dawa is from Malmo, Sweden. He is a producer. He's got a couple projects out. This one is the EP. So it's a 10-inch and it's on this white vinyl. I don't remember how many of these they pressed, but you can still definitely find this. It's on Ivory, it's called. But it is amazing. He is a real sample heavy producer. So he will sample a lot of I know I keep mentioning Little Brother, but he'll sample a lot of Little Brother, a lot of Slum Village, which was Jay Dilla's group that he was in. He's a hip hop head, a jazz head, and really nice guy. Follow him on Instagram. Puts out new music all the time. He's really down to earth. He likes to chit chat. Hope to meet him one day in person. So, a girl group. Number 13. Again, I mentioned buying records for my wife, so I have some records that are my wife's records, but this one, I have to admit, I like as well. Dixie Chicks. So this is the first time it was pressed on vinyl. It was pressed a couple years ago. You can still find this pretty readily, but I mean, this has got wide open spaces on it. There's Your Trouble. I mean, it's got a lot of great songs on it, but when I had to pick a girl group, I initially didn't know what to pick. I was kind of thinking I had Rhapsody Records, but she's only a single female MC. But this one, I can say I'm proud to own because Dixie Chicks are awesome. Or as they call themselves now, the Chicks. Number 14, an album cover you love. So this was, I knew immediately what I was gonna pick for this because I don't even think it's an iconic album cover. I just know when I saw it, I needed to own it. Thelonious Monk, Underground. Now this is an amazing jazz pianist. If you aren't familiar, I'm sure you are familiar with Thelonious Monk. So this album cover, I'll get a little closer here. You can see he's dressed as a French revolutionary, and he has the Nazi officer tied up here with his hands behind his back, and he clearly broke into this guy's house. He's got Viva la France spray painted up there on the top, but I just love it because he's just looking so cool. He's got this gun hanging on him. He's got his bottle of I don't know, wine. I think it's red wine, sitting on the piano there. He's playing. He's got the French Revolutionary girl in the background there. But I just love this album cover because it's just, I don't know, it's amazing. All right, so number 15, an album that you listen to the most. So I had to ask my wife to help me with this one because I didn't know. I try to go through a different artist and spread it out, and I have a pretty big collection. So I was struggling to figure out who do I listen to the most, and I came up with 2 albums because I couldn't decide between the 2. So first I'll show you Stan Getz and João Gilberto, Getz and Gilberto. This is featuring Antonio Carlos Jobim, and this is Brazilian samba music 101. I love this record. I like to put on the Brazilian music in the mornings a lot of times. I feel like even if you're having a bad day, Brazilian music, you can't be upset and have Brazilian music on. That's sort of my motto. But this is amazing. It's got Astrid Gilberto, who I believe is João Gilberto's wife, and she sings on some of the tracks. João Gilberto sings on some of the tracks. It's it's got a couple different vibes. If you like Brazilian music or if you don't know Brazilian music, start with this and you're gonna go down a rabbit hole because it's pretty amazing. Number 2, Gregory Alan Isakov. So this is called Evening Machines, and it's on this gray vinyl, 180 grams. I'll show you here. I think they only made 500 of these. I could be mistaken, but it's on this gray marbled vinyl. it came signed. I have the signed jacket somewhere else. They did, I mean, I love when labels, when we pre-order the signed albums and they send you an extra jacket. It's amazing. But Gregor Allen Eiskopf, he's from Colorado. He's originally from South Africa. And he plays, I guess I would describe it as like folk music, but it's not too folky. It's great music. I love the way he sings. I got to see him in concert shortly before the pandemic all started. So, and that was at the Vic here in Chicago. And definitely love this album. He has another one, I can't remember, I'm blanking on what the album's called completely right now, but something about like the empty northern hemisphere that I like a lot. I don't have that one on vinyl yet. There's a brown copy, which I don't even know how much they made, but I can't find that one anywhere. I've sort of been holding out for that one, which could go on my list of albums I hope to find in 2021. But this one's also amazing. If you're not familiar with him, just to name a couple of tracks, Saint Louis, listen to that one. I mean, Chemicals is on here. The whole album's good though, just put it on. Like I said, I have a wife and son, and I have the record player here sitting in the living room, and so most of the time I'm sort of DJing for everybody. My wife isn't as into the underground hip hop as I am, and we keep it a lot more chill most of the time, which is why most of the stuff I play is like the alternative stuff or the lo-fi stuff or the jazz, but the alternative indie folk stuff is something I have a lot of as well. Okay, so an album you had to get the original copy of. So this one, sort of leading into one of the other albums or stemming from one of the other albums I showed you, is Mos Def's Black on Both Sides. This is an amazing album. I'd say it's probably, I know I've said this a couple of times, but it's gotta be one of my favorite albums of all time. This, Black Star, and Commons B are probably the top three. But this one, I mean, it's got Fear Not of Man, hip hop, This Fat Booty, Speed Law, Umi Says, New World Water, Rock and Roll, Mathematics, Brooklyn, Habitat. It's got them all. Definitely check this out if you're not familiar with Mos Def. And if he ever starts touring again, he kind of went on a hiatus and he changed his name. And Yasin Bey is the new name he goes by. But if you ever get to see him, I got to see the Black Star. I think it was like a 10-year reunion tour for the album. And so it's, like 11 years ago now. But I got to see him in Tampa when I was living in Florida. Mos Def, this presence he had on the stage was amazing. And that sort of solidified my love for him. But he's an amazing actor, singer, rapper. He does it all. Dancer. An album, or the last album you purchased, number 17. So the last album I purchased, that I've received at least, is Miles Bonney, Lumberjack Soul 2. Miles Bonney, I found him, he's very soul heavy, he plays the trumpet, so it's sort of a mix of jazz, soul, funk, hip hop beats. I discovered him because he did a lot of stuff with a lot of the German lo-fi instrumental hip hop artists. So he has a lot of stuff with like Twit One and Suff Daddy, and he toured with them a lot. In this album, it's got a cool pressing here. I'm not even sure what they call it, but it's sort of like both sides are a little different. So you got that on side B, and then side A is more like the grays on the interior. I thought that was kind of cool. But Miles Bonney, I believe he lives in like Mexico, so he's an American guy, but he's got a sort of old crooner style voice, plays the trumpet, he's got a lot of soul. Definitely recommend checking him out. Lumberjack Soul 1 is a pretty popular album that I don't have, and it's kind of expensive, so I'm holding out, hoping I can find a decent price copy for that. Number 18, an album they don't get. So this was sort of a difficult question for me. I was trying to think of some of the most obscure stuff I have or something, I guess. And I came up with Mai Tai Quiet On, and this album is, so Mai Tai is a Japanese ambient artist, I guess you would call him, but he tried, at least in his first 3 albums, and the third one just came out I think a month or so ago. He focuses on Japanese ghost folklore, and there's a name for it that's in Japanese that I don't recall what it is right now off the top of my head, but it's sort of got a haunting vibe, and I mean that in the best way. It's a interesting listen. Sort of, you can have it on in the background, or you can really be thinking about it and sort of analyzing it. And it's got a lot of unique sounds and snippets, but I could see this being a little out there for a lot of people. So I would say this is my album that people don't get. But I mean, the artistry is amazing. You can see another album cover I love. Number 19, a punk album, or the closest thing you have to it. So when I was in middle school and beginning of high school, I really was into punk music. You know, I mean, from anywhere from pop punk to real punk to hardcore, whatever. But I didn't start collecting records until I was in college, and so I had transitioned into hip hop at that point. So I don't have a lot, but I have this 1 7-inch here that I got for free. I ordered, I think it was like my Howlin' Wolf record, one of my Howlin' Wolf records I have, from somebody on Discogs, and they included this for free. It's a Chicago ska band, and their name is Akasha. And if you like ska or like roots, that type of vibe, you'll like this. I'm not sure if the guy's in the album. It's because it's a local group. The album, when I bought it, was coming from the suburbs here. So I am curious to see if he was in the group or not. I meant to ask him, but I forgot. But Akasha, I can't really tell you much else about it, but it came out in 2017. Eye for an Eye is on one side, and You Make Me Feel Good is on the other side. You Make Me Feel Good is a little more ska, whereas An Eye for an Eye is a little slower, sort of like roots type vibe. Favorite 2020 reissue? This was pretty easy choice for me. People Under the Stairs, OST. Now, I think OST stands for Original Soundtrack, but I'm not 100% positive. But if you're not familiar with People Under the Stairs, you need to get familiar with People Under the Stairs. It is hip hop, but it's like fun hip hop. These 2 guys, both of them rap, both of them produce music, beats, or instrumentals, whatever you want to call it. But it's a really fun listen. You need to start. I mean, Montego Slay, they sample a lot of music from all kinds of genres, which keeps it an interesting listen. Even if you aren't keeping up with the words, the beats are amazing. And this came out on Vinyl Me Please. I'll try and open it real quick here while I'm talking. Sorry about this sound. This album came out, I don't even remember what year it came out. Let me see. Okay, I don't see it right away. But this album came out, and I didn't get it because it was like back in the early 2000s. And Original Soundtrack. They didn't press that many of them. All of their albums are pretty hard to come by as far as price-wise, unless you get them when they first release. But this was a repress. They came out with a black one as well that they put out through like Fat Beats and some other websites. But this is from Vinyl Me Please, which I know a lot of people have beef with them right now. But it's so it's got green on that side. I took a trip with my wife and our best friend couple. To Seattle, and I stopped in a record store there, and I saw an original copy of this for $75, and I didn't get it, and I regretted it all the way up until I finally got this in. It's getting a mess here. So the first one's on grain, this one is too, but it's really cool. It's got, you can see the sleeve here. It's like old newspaper clippings of everything they did, because they broke up like shortly before they reissued this. But a really fun, amazing hip hop group that keeps it interesting. They have songs about beer, so partying. I mean, not in like a club way, but in a more down to earth, real way. So I appreciate you listening, and I'd love some feedback. Let me know what you think. I'm thinking of ideas of how to sort of incorporate beer and music and beer and vinyl together. But if you have any suggestions, definitely reach out to me in the comments or through the messenger. I'm not sure how it's going to work yet. Follow me on Instagram, hit the subscribe button to sort of see where this goes. Like I think I said earlier, I'd love to one day be able to start doing some interviews and sort of get music lovers and beer lovers to share their experiences and share some of their favorite things. So until next time, I'll try to think of another video to record. But this vinyl tag was a good way to jump in. I appreciate everyone who watches this, especially if you made it all the way this far. So, all right, cheers.